welcome to the annual Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Awards program. Back in 1963, the Bloomington City Council unanimously passed its first Human Relations Ordinance, at which point it became the policy of the city of Bloomington to be in support of constitutional provisions against prejudice or discrimination by reasons of race, color, creed, national origin, or ancestry. It took another 9 years, but in 1972, the Bloomington Human Relations Commission was created.
Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.
And in 1975, the first MLK banquet was held. In 1977, we began the tradition of an award recognizing the contributions of individuals to the community. And here we are. Our job is not and never will be complete, but we keep working at it. And now, please welcome our Mistress of Ceremonies, Nikita Richards, as she guides us through this year's celebration.
A better time for us to be free.
Good afternoon. On behalf of the City of Bloomington, I wish all of our distinguished honorees a well-deserved congratulations. Their contributions to the Bloomington Normal community make life better for each and every one of us. It is an honor to continue this long-standing tradition of celebrating the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. It is because of the manifestation of his dream that we would all be judged based upon the content of our character and not by the color of our skin that I'm here before you today, proudly serving as Bloomington's first Congolese American mayor. So much is possible when we unite, dream, and build together. The works of this year's award winners are a perfect example of that. We still have work to do, but we will get there. Let us carry Dr. King's legacy into the future as we pursue equity, access, and justice. Thank you and enjoy the program.
On behalf of the town of Normal, I extend a warm and enthusiastic welcome to all attendees of the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Awards luncheon. King's work centered on courage, understanding, justice, education, inclusiveness, and service. These values guided his work as a civil rights leader, and they are values shared by both the City of Bloomington and the town of Normal. As a mayor for 2 decades, I've seen our communities morph and change, embracing diversity. Today's event to honor and recognize the heroes in our community is just a small part of this growth. We still have work to do. Today, let us celebrate Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s legacy by recognizing these individuals today who make a difference in our community. Tomorrow, let us continue his work, our work, to carry that legacy forward.
I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character.
Oh yeah. It's that time, baby. Hello, how are you? My name's Vast Change and I made it come true. I just had to push through and now I made it do what it do and everything is alright. Hello, how are you? My name's Vast Change and I made it come true. I just had to push through, and now I made it do what it do, and everything is alright. This a song I'ma sing when I make it, when I finally get a house with a pool in the basement. Living in the hood, you get jaded, but the hope that God placed up in my heart kept me racing. Yeah, I did it all for the fam. Remember tough times, man, we were stuck in a jam. Had to put the praise up and watch the blessings rain down. A lot of people told me where I couldn't be, but here I am, I made it. Hello, how are you? My name's Vast Change and I made it come true. Yeah, I just had to push through, and now I made it do what it do, and everything is alright. Yeah, hello, how are you? My name's Vast Change and I made it come true. I just had to push through, and now I made it do what it do, and everything is alright. Yeah, alright, 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 and everything is alright. Alright, 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 and everything is alright. I had to tell the story again, how a young black man came and conquered the wind, and got his family out of a bad situation with a gift that came from up above with no strings attached. Got my enemies mad cause they love when I lack. They rather see me back into my state of selling drugs and carrying guns, trying to get ahead in the streets. They don't want to see me reach back and tell a young kid it's a better way to win. The route they headed down, you'll be eaten by the sin, and you can never save a man that's feeling the way to taking a man's life. You know that I'm right, only God saves souls. Play a role, homie. Understand where you at to get to where you wanna go, homie. It's never as hard as it seems, and you typically are never as low as you think. I remember sharing dreams with my family about success. First it was football, then it was rap, and I worked just as hard in both hats. People always told me that I had to choose, but when I chose both. It's no way I could lose. God gave me the tools so the mountains I climb. God gave me the dreams and instilled in my arms so I can reach them. Young kids, it's time to teach them life. Hello, how are you? My name's Vast Change and I made it come true. I just had to push through, and now I made it do what it do, and everything is alright. Hello, how are you? My name's Vast Change and I made it come true. Yeah, I just had to push through, and now I made it do what it do, and everything is alright. Alright, yeah, alright, alright, and everything is alright.
Free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for having me. First, to the organizers of today's events, thank you for keeping Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s legacy alive by recognizing those who are working to keep his dream alive. Second, and equally as important, I'd like to congratulate the recipients of this very esteemed event. So congratulations. Today, I have the very good pleasure of introducing a dear friend and an esteemed professional colleague as today's keynote speaker, the infamous Tony Waller. Tony is Vice President, Constituent Relations and Racial Equity for Walmart. There, he sets strategy to maximize social investments in diverse and multicultural communities. His portfolio includes African Americans, Hispanics, Asian American and Pacific Islanders, and Native American communities, as well as women and people with disabilities and emerging generations. Tony is also tasked with being a critical integrator, engaging across Walmart's corporate affairs team to help shape policy, communication strategy, federal and state government relation, and community relations through a racial equity lens. While his role at Walmart is to serve diverse communities, I know personally that Tony has spent his entire life serving the communities where he has lived. Something he once told me, he was taught that to give real service, you must add to the world something that cannot be bought or measured with money. Tony also serves on a number of boards that advances DEI and social justice causes, including the NAACP ACSO Advisory Council, the Center for Asian Pacific American Women, and the National African American Women's Leadership Institute, just to name a few. Among Tony's many awards, he is the recipient of the Donald H. McGannick Award, the highest distinction given by the National Urban League to a corporate individual in recognition of his efforts in the community. And oh, by the way, Tony is the only individual to have earned this award twice. As Tony is also a very dear friend, I know him as someone who is very passionate about a few other things. And those things include African American art and sculpture, antique watches, vintage cufflinks, not just cufflinks, but vintage cufflinks, very distinct eyewear, children's storybooks, and quotes, especially since he has a new little niece. I know that's even a greater passion of his. Oh, and I didn't forget, shoes, we all know, is Tony's kryptonite. But for as long as I've known Tony, I know he strives to live each and every day by the words of his beloved mother, Miss Barbara G. Motley Waller. And Mrs. Waller would tell Tony, and I've heard them quote this, quote his mom time and time again, to keep flowing with the river, for the river knows exactly where it's going. We can all live by that same motto. Tony, thank you for all that you do in service to our communities. And thank you, equally as important, for being a dear friend. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me in welcoming Mr. Tony Waller. Tony?
When Dr. King said, a majority of Americans are uneasy with injustice, but unwilling to pay a significant price to eradicate it. Dr. King himself was more than willing to pay the price for eradicating injustice. He was the personification of a leader willing to take the fundamental risk to drive fundamental change. Like all great leaders, he lived with the risk of assassination. When John F. Kennedy was assassinated in 1963, Dr. King told an associate, if they'll kill a president, I won't live to be 40. That comment proved sadly prophetic 5 years later in Memphis, when Dr. King was only 39 years old. And during the last 5 years of his life, Dr. King's popularity was plummeting. That's right, plummeting, y'all, both with blacks and whites. Just before his death, this man, who today is venerated as a national icon, had a disapproval rating of 75%. Yes, y'all, 75% disapproval rating. And that was a direct result of Dr. King having the courage to follow his heart and his conscience. He paid the price for sticking with the approach of love and nonviolence. Even though by the mid-1960s, younger people especially were favoring a more militant approach. And he paid the price for following his conscience in new directions, like an added emphasis on economic justice and ending poverty. Some establishment leaders found that too radical, and he brought the civil rights demonstrations north, right here to Illinois, and absorbed a furious backlash to his fair housing campaign in Chicago, losing the support of some Northerners who preferred to think of racism as a problem unique to the South. He came out against the Vietnam War, a war that's universally recognized today as a disastrous mistake. But at the time Dr. King opposed it, the war still had the support of the majority of Americans, especially President Lyndon Johnson, who never forgave Dr. King for challenging the morality of the Vietnam War. Dr. King's willingness to pay the price of conscience was explained eloquently when he said, cowardice asked the question, is it safe? Expectancy asked the question, is it politics? But conscience asks the question, is it right? I think most of us would agree that the 1963 March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom was a high point of the civil rights movement and a high point of Dr. King's life. History remembers that day mostly for Dr. King's famous I Have a Dream speech. But that hot August day also made history for the diversity of people who were there. The 250,000 people who gathered in front of the Lincoln Memorial were described by the National Park Service historian as Black, white, Latino, American Indian, Jewish, Christian, men, women, famous, anonymous, but ultimately all Americans marching for their civil rights. The incomparable Marian Anderson sang the national anthem that day. Gospel legend Mahalia Jackson was also there, along with folk music giants Odetta, Bob Dylan, and Joan Baez. The speaker's platform was crowded with leaders from major civil rights organizations, Protestant, Catholic, and Jewish religious leaders, and the leader of a giant labor union, but not one business leader. Corporate America remained a spectator during the civil rights movement, not a player. Why? It wasn't that corporations were hotbeds of racism. It went back to the basic question of what price are you willing to pay? And business leaders trained to minimize risk and maximize profits couldn't justify the risk of taking a stance on a divisive issue like racial justice and its sister issue of gender justice, at least not in the 1960s. But a fascinating thing happened over the next 50 years. As government gradually pulled back from support for the concept of diversity and inclusion, businesses embraced it. At first, it might have been for the wrong reasons, fear of discrimination lawsuits. But as the years went by, corporate leadership realized every step towards what we now call racial equity made for stronger companies and a stronger society. And in the last 5 years or so, big companies have shown a growing appetite for taking stands and getting involved in contentious issues that affect the whole society and a willingness to pay the price. Speaking from my own personal experience at Walmart, this is an exhilarating time to be part of corporate America. Our efforts to support racial equity inside and outside Walmart go back at least 30 years. And over these years, we kept learning as we kept trying. And one of the lessons we've learned early was there's always more to be done. That lesson was thunderously reinforced by the George Floyd tragedy. Look, I'm all twisted up right now. The George Floyd tragedy, as it was for many other companies. So in the space of a few months, we took a look at what we were doing versus what we were capable of doing and launched initiatives to help close the gap. We essentially declared war against systemic racism in America. We created the Walmart.org Center for Racial Equity and funded it with $100 million to invest in efforts and systems to fight racism in the areas of finance, health, education, and criminal justice. And we're leveraging and expertise of our whole company to support racial equity in those 4 areas. Given the elusiveness of racial equity and the stubbornness of systemic racism, we have no illusions about transforming society single-handedly. But like many other companies today, we're determined to be part of the effort. I think Dr. King would welcome corporate America as an ally if he were still here with us today. And history leaves us some clues as to what his priorities might be. I'm sure he would have been a valuable ally for the modern women's movement and the gay rights movement, which both took off in the years after we lost Dr. King. It's tantalizing to think how much progress America might have made towards racial equity if we had the benefits of his leadership for another 30 or 40 years. I think Dr. King was also tantalized by the idea of seeing the goal of racial and economic justice supported by a diverse and permanent cross-section of America. And on that basis, I am confident he would be encouraged by what we're doing right here in Bloomington Normal. Congratulations to your commitment. And I thank you so much for letting me be part of this very special day.
My goodness. Please join me in applause. Wow, what a poignant and timely message from Mr. Tony Waller. Thank you so much, sir. We are very, very indebted to you, and it's been a pleasure. Wow, thank you so much. May we all experience moments in our lives that provoke us to take action towards justice. And like Dr. King, may we be transformational. Wow, thank you so much. And now, to the moment we've all been waiting for, our 2022 Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I Have a Dream Award recipients.
This year, the town of Normal selected 2 Youth Award winners. The town of Normal First 2022 Youth Award is presented to Kana Brooks. Kana's passion for volunteering started at an early age, and in the last few years, she has added activism to her resume. She often participated in local community service as well as hosting service projects herself. Through service and activism, Kana has taken her spirit of compassion and overwhelming generosity to touch the lives of those in her community. It is evident in her philanthropic efforts, namely the founding of a charity to help those in need in the community. Not only does Kana schedule service events and invites others to participate, she also uses her Kana Care social media platforms for advocacy, activism, to raise awareness, to inspire good deeds, to engage the community, and to share resources. Congratulations to Kana Brooks as a recipient of the 2022 Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Award.
I am very honored to receive this prestigious award. First, I would like to thank Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior. I would like to thank the town of Normal for selecting me for this award, and I am beyond thankful to Mrs. Brown who nominated me. I would like to thank my family, my friends, and I also would like to thank UHI's Black Student Union, NAACP Youth Council, and the Roar Club for providing me with leadership opportunities, growth, and additional ways to give back to my community. Finally, I would like to thank my parents for being such great role models to me and have been my motivation to make change, just like MLK did. Volunteering and helping others runs in my family. My parents have always spent time volunteering and working in our community. I started at a very young age as I would follow along and help them. I also volunteered at my school and church. My true calling for giving back to the community came during 4th grade. I organized my first hamburger helper food drive and was able to collect over 120 boxes. Over the years, I've stepped up and I've created now Kana Cares, where my goal is to create a simple act of kindness each month to make big differences in the lives of others. I take pride, just like MLK did, in community service and giving back. It's truly a passion of mine that I aspire to continue throughout high school, college, and onto adulthood. I will also put all that is in me into speaking out and speaking up for those who need a voice. Martin Luther King Jr. had a dream, and so do I. This past summer, my family and I visited Washington, D.C. I had the opportunity to stand in his footsteps on the Lincoln Memorial. This is where he gave his I Have a Dream speech, one of the greatest speeches in the civil rights movement. As I stood there, I could only imagine the impact he gave on all those people. It was an awe-inspiring moment that has created a long-lasting positive impact in my life. It is an honor, and I'm completely humbled to be mentioned in the same sentence as one of the greatest advocates of our time, Martin Luther King Jr. Thank you.
The Town of Normal's second 2022 Youth Award is presented to Erica Rosenberger. Erica is empathetic and passionate about ensuring that everyone has access to basic needs and justice. Erica is motivated and driven by a principle of Dr. Martin Luther King, which states, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." The scope and depth of Erica's activism and efforts are focused on service that impacts groups that have been historically discriminated against. As one of the leaders of Not in Our School, Erica is working to stop hate, address bullying, and create safe, inclusive schools for all. Congratulations to Erica Rosenberger as a recipient of the 2022 Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Award.
I wanted to start off by thanking the Normal Human Relations Commission for selecting me as a co-recipient for this year's Martin Luther King Jr. Award. Their contributions to the community stand as a model for how I work to promote inclusivity in our community. Despite its simplicity, one of my favorite questions posed by Dr. King is, "What are you doing for others?" As I pondered this question, I got to thinking about the support that I've had from others and the ways my friends and family make me feel accepted and loved. I hope to continue to honor Dr. King and his legacy by building that mindset within our community of putting others first and growing together through it. I believe community is much more than belonging to something. It's about doing something together that makes belonging matter. So, thank you to the people that make me feel like I belong and that I matter. Thank you, Camille Taylor and Mary Applington, for always challenging me to keep an open heart and lead with love. Thank you, family, for teaching me how to love others first. Thank you, colleagues, for helping me sustain my goal of putting others first through our group efforts of bettering the community. And once again, thank you, Normal Human Relations Commission, for thinking of me.
The Town of Normal 2022 Adult Award is presented to Mrs. Michelle Cook. Mrs. Cook is a staunch advocate for helping individuals of all races, sexes, and those individuals who need extra help. She works tirelessly and is still working and volunteering even during this pandemic. She has been in the Bloomington Normal community since 1999. She is a retired registered nurse and veteran of the Vietnam War, where she was also a nurse. She is a hidden jewel in the community, and at about 80 years young, she needs to be appreciated by the community she has served and continues to serve even using her own funds. Her mission in life is to serve God and serve others regardless of age, race, sex, creed, or color. Congratulations to Mrs. Michelle Cook as a recipient of the 2022 Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Award.
I'm Michelle Cook, and I'm probably the oldest recipient here tonight. I want to thank everyone who had a part in making this award possible. I'm old enough that I got to hear Dr. Martin Luther King in person, and I was very inspired by him. But let me tell you, I want to thank especially the young woman who nominated me. She's the one that should be standing here. Our chaplain, Vanita Dillingham Anderson, is a remarkable woman of God. And without her, I probably wouldn't even be doing this ministry. She introduced me to it and mentored me into it. And I am so blessed every day to be serving these men and women that God brings to me. I was raised in a home where service was in our DNA. My grandparents always helped others and looked out for people. My parents always helped others and looked out for people. They taught us to take care of each other and others who were less fortunate, to share everything God gave us, and to share it with no judgment, love unconditionally, and to be obedient to the assignments God gave us, whether we liked them or not. And sometimes, you know how it is, but being obedient to God is what brought me here today. And I am so blessed by all of the almost 2,500 young men and women that I've served here in this community that society kind of turned their back on or said was less than. These are remarkable children, and I'm blessed that they call me mama, and that they love me and respect me because they know that we're family. And that's what it's all about, is loving each other, taking care of each other, and helping each other. Loving God, doing our best every day, telling the truth, and treating others the way we want to be treated. So that's all I've done. I'm just an obedient troop to my Father, and it's brought me to this. So I thank you all for this honor. It's a wonderful thing, but I share it with everybody that's been involved with my life over these past years. Thank you.
The City of Bloomington 2022 Adult Award is presented to Reverend Bridget Black. Reverend Black has been a force for community uplift and justice since coming to Bloomington to pastor Wayman AME Church. Particularly with COVID, she took an early lead to educate and influence the community to get their vaccine inoculations. This has not only included constant reminders in church and via social media, but also sponsoring public awareness events. Dr. Black serves on the Not in Our Town Steering Committee, where she has become a trusted voice for guidance. Congratulations to Reverend Bridget Black as the recipient of the 2022 Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Award.
I'd like to thank the City of Bloomington Human Relations Committee for this honor. The values and principles of Dr. Martin Luther King were instilled in me at a very young age. I can remember being 5 years old and going to Operation Breadbasket and marching and picketing in Chicago when I was a very young child. And so I thank you. And so I've tried to live these values, and I thank you for honoring me. In Jesus' name.
The City of Bloomington 2022 Youth Award is presented to Raji Moore. Raji's service work in the Bloomington Normal area has fulfilled unmet needs of many underserved communities. Her most incredible and fulfilling project is the creation of the Little Free Pantry. The addition of the Little Free Pantry to Bloomington Normal has addressed food insecurity in low-income communities with diverse ethnic backgrounds by providing a safe space for those living in difficult financial circumstances to get non-perishable food items. Congratulations to Raji as a recipient of the 2022 Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Award.
Congratulations again to this outstanding group of leaders and legacy builders. Here now to uplift us through song is the Heritage Ensemble and their rendition of Lift Every Voice and Sing.
Till earth and heaven
such remarkable talent, and especially during this particular social and racial climate, we all could use a song and psalm of encouragement and uplifting. Thank you so very much to the Heritage Ensemble. And thank you all for remaining with us for the duration of this amazing program. I really hope that you've enjoyed yourself. Please let me capture your attention for just a bit longer as I share brief community announcements. The Honorable Letisa Wallace served in the Illinois House of Representatives from 2014 to 2019, where she was the first Black woman to represent the 67th District in the Illinois General Assembly. Here to offer important voter education information, Dr. Letisa Wallace.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's an honor, pleasure to be here this afternoon. I just wanted to share with you some brief announcements. We know that one of the biggest legacies of King was the work that he did on the Voting Rights Act of 1965, working with individuals all over the country and including our leadership to ensure that people had access to the ballot. But now here we are, half a century or more since his assassination, and we're in the same fight. We're facing so many challenges. I, in 2015, took my son to the 20th anniversary of the Million Man March, and during that time, I had the honor of meeting with Congressman John Lewis. He was initially told to get into good trouble by Dr. King, and we continue to associate that phrase with him. We know that the good trouble that Dr. King and so many others work toward is what we should be working for every single day. During that meeting, I shared with him a resolution that I passed in the Illinois House urging Congress to reauthorize the pre-clearance sections of the 1965 Voting Rights Act. And it's a hallmark of now the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. So in Illinois, we are excited about the fact that there have been some changes, so I want to share a little bit with you about what's going on in the realm of voting. Our primary has been pushed back in our state to June 28th, but early voting begins on May 19th. As early as March 30th, you may request your vote by mail application, and you may begin to submit your vote by mail on May 14th. And the very last day to vote by mail is June 23rd. So remember, make sure your registration's up to date, register friends and family that may not have been registered, and vote on June 28th. Continue to honor the legacy of Dr. King and so many others who fought to ensure our rights. Thank you for having me with you guys this afternoon.
The 20-year project, the Town of Normal, and the Normal Public Library are collaborating on an effort to provide people in the future with education and information about the impacts of COVID-19 on the community. The 20-year project will host an event to seal a time capsule beginning at 5 p.m. on Saturday, February 26th at the Town of Normal Community Activity Center, located at 1110 Douglas Street. Again, that's 1110 Douglas Street, Normal, Illinois. Attendees will experience a historic event while connecting with the community. This event will include refreshments, reflective circles, speakers, arts, and craft. The City of Bloomington will host its annual Black History Essay Contest for Bloomington resident youth. Participants are to submit works that honor Black entertainers, artists, writers, justices, activists, leaders, and visionaries by February 11, 2022. Contest details and entry forms can be found on the City of Bloomington Human Relations Commission's website. Winning essays will go on air with WGLT News. Prizes and awards presented to first, second, and third place winners in elementary, middle school, and high school categories. That concludes the announcements for this program. And that actually leads us into the closing of this remarkable celebration. We're so excited that you all could join us. We're grateful for your commitment to the legacy of Dr. King and to our community. Thank you so very much. And we look forward to seeing you next year for the 47th celebration. And to that, have a wonderful afternoon, everyone. Take care.